All right, we're live.
We are live.
Welcome back to another episode of Crazy Stupid
I was going to say
Podcast.
our Crazy Stupid Podcast, but that's not actually the name of our podcast.
It is not. It is not. Yeah. Remember that other account that had the same name?
Yeah. I hope they're doing well. I like them.
It looked like they hadn't posted something in a while. I'm going to turn their headphones on.
I don't know. I need to
That
go.
doesn't sound right.
What, the cats?
Yeah, whatever that was.
I'm not going to worry about it.
So we just finished episode 8 of The Last of Us.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
That was kind of dark.
I've been waiting for this episode. Not in excitement, but the one solid thing that I really knew, there's two things that I really knew going into this show. I knew how it ended because you told me how the video game ended. Mm-hmm. And I knew that they were going to be cannibals because I don't know what got me there. I can't remember what got me there. I saw something about The Last of Us online, something, and I was like, oh, they were saying it was like a life, like it was like a, I don't know. They were talking about this scene like it was like a
Really
big
life
deal.
altering for Ellie.
And so I went out of curiosity. I was like, oh, I mean, I know like Adrian plays this game. I know that it has like really good like scenes. Mm-hmm. So I went and I watched it, and it was the cannibal scene. It was the scene where she's like captured and she's on the table and they're about to like chop her arm off. Yeah. And ever since then, since the show started, I've been like, when are the cannibals coming? Who are they?
Sounds like excitement you've got there.
No. It wasn't excitement. It was dread. I was afraid.
First the Timothy Chalamet movie, and now this. Should
Yeah,
I be concerned?
It was fear. Mm-hmm. I was like, no, are they the cannibals? No, okay, no. Are they? Okay, no, it's not them.
Where are the cannibals? Yeah.
They almost had me fooled tonight, but in my head, I was like, no, these are the cannibals.
I gotta say, for a while, I got a little nervous. Like, are they gonna alter that part? But I do remember I've played Last of Us 2 more recently than the first one, and the reveal did take quite a while for you to realize, oh, they're not normal.
Yeah.
But I thought they were going to dial back on that. I also was wondering if they were going to dial back on just the really pervy SA vibes the guy was giving off. Because, like, just I don't know if that would have always, if it's appropriate, if it was necessary. But because I didn't want it to be a thing where a woman goes through a sexual assault or like a girl goes through sexual assault incident, and that is the introduction to her womanhood.
Oh, no.
Like that trope's been used often.
Yeah, I don't think that's what they were doing.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure if it would translate well to the screen. Like Sansa in Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? But yeah, I didn't see it in that way.
No, I didn't either. Also, it didn't happen. So
no, that's true. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we mentioned this in our very first episode, but just the idea of like, are we still believing in God in a zombie apocalypse?
I don't know about that one. Sorry. I don't. I'm sorry.
Can't post that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm still in the same place where, okay, if it's like in this case, they're not coming back to life from the dead. It's like they're being taken over by like some sort of fungus that already does something similar in nature.
Right.
So like I might be able to be like, okay, this is still following like the basic rules of nature that I've come to understand. Mm-hmm. But I think I'd still be like, but like, God, like you're doing a bit too much. Like this is kind of a lot. I just feel like we've taken things too far. Like, wrap it up.
Part of Christianity is the prophetic side to it. And nothing in prophecy would allow you to think that infected, unalived, zombified persons would be roaming the earth. You know what I mean? Like that, I think, is what would shock me, because the the one of the critiques that we've both sort of had with Christianity is the absolutes, is the fundamentalist idea, is the we have the objective truth, right? That also translates to the way that they look at prophecy. And so if you realize your prophecy is all wrong because at no point did you ever include this post-apocalyptic, encounter, it's kind of hard for me to like trust your validity anymore.
I mean, I could say that for other people, but for me, prophecy has never been that big a deal for my Christianity. So, like, I don't really think
But
that would come into
that's the
play.
end game, though, isn't it?
I mean, like, the second coming, yes, but like all the stuff that we've been told that leads up to it, that's just not really a big part of my faith journey.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't really think that would come into play for me. I could see how in this world, I mean, it's kind of like if you don't believe in God and you don't believe that things are going to end, then like that like really sucks. Like like what he was saying when he was like finding God in the post apocalypse is like either the best or the worst time to find him. I kind of get that because it's like on the one hand, like if you don't believe that there is like something coming to like put an end to all of
Like
this
something else.
suffering, then that's real bleak. It's already kind of bleak now. Like even now, sometimes I'm like, yo, I'm glad that I have a thing that I'm looking forward to because
Yeah.
otherwise this would be a lot. But in that scenario, I feel like I could see how you might need it even more. But on the other hand, what type of a God is going to let us go through this ordeal? I just
See,
don't know.
that's that cruelty
I
conversation
just
that
don't
sort of always
know.
comes up when it's about a deity, right? Like what deity would allow this if this deity is like full of love,
I
right?
just
That
feel
concept
like
is always going to come up.
God, if the world ends, you need to end it. That's just how I feel. Just it needs
Yeah.
to be done like for real. We can't dwindle after the apocalypse. The apocalypse needs to be the finishing event, and
Yeah.
then you gotta wrap this thing up.
But I think my conundrum that I am thinking about is for many Protestant, or even I guess with Catholics, for many Christians, after death is afterlife. You go to heaven or some form of it. What's the point of surviving if you know what you've got guaranteed after it's all done? Especially for people that are like saved, right? Like someone, it's not like an ongoing thing that you have to keep recommitting yourself to, but like you have that one specific moment when you're saved as a Christian, meaning your spot in heaven is already locked.
Well, some of them believe that suicide is a sin, so like there's like large swaths of Christians that believe if you kill yourself, you don't go to
You
heaven.
don't go to heaven.
So that would probably be it for them.
I don't know if you can really hold on to that in this sort of bleak environment you've got going on here. Because,
I mean, honestly, it would be nearly impossible to be like a good Christian, quote unquote, good Christian in this world. You have to do so many wild things to survive.
right.
Like, yeah, like a person that's holding on very strictly to their, I don't know. Wow, they're loud. Holding on very strictly to their morals,
Just trying to adjust this. Okay.
they probably wouldn't last very long, honestly, because like you kind of have to do wildly
Yeah.
immoral things
I
to
mean,
live.
remember in The Walking Dead in like the very first season, Dale, that old white guy who was always fixing the truck in season 1 and 2, he didn't last very long because he's forcing them to ask the uncomfortable questions of like, what's our morality going to look like? And I don't know if your old morality can exist in that new world, but the whole premise of Christianity is a morality that can only exist in this current world that we live in. But now you got this thing of like, thou shalt not kill. Okay, well, there's going to be instances where you'll have to do that. But then also, I'm thinking about, like, yeah, there's like this self-defense sort of conversation. But, I mean, the infected aren't dead. They're still people. So you're still killing a person regardless. You know what I mean? So like,
I mean, but
what are
it's
the?
still self-defense.
That's true, but I guess I'm thinking of like just the ethical dilemmas of it all that
Yeah.
you'd have to really start to think through. Your hands would get messy
I don't
at
know.
some point. Oh, I had another thought about this that I wanted to talk about. Oh, this is what it was. Part of the purpose of Christianity is to evangelize, right? Like New Testament is pretty
Yeah.
clear of like, go ye therefore and teach all nations. Teach them what exactly?
I mean, it depends how you think about evangelism. Like some people are like very literally, I need to be teaching you about Jesus. But other people are like, I think it just means I'm going to show you the character of Jesus and be a generally good person.
But conversion is like essential to Christianity.
Yeah, but a lot of people are like, conversion isn't our job. Like my job is just to show you Jesus, and then Jesus does the converting.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought about all of that of like all of it would just seem very pointless.
Yeah, it couldn't be about that anymore. It would solely be about hope for the future. I think that's hope for the future and for the present, honestly, because you'd kind of need something to be like, praying I get through this day. I mean,
Yeah,
like, honestly, it functions like that for a lot of people now. Of like, that's really what it is. Like, I am not big on conversion. I'm not big on like any of that stuff. Neither are most of the friends that I have who are also Christians. Really, it's like I just know that there's like a guiding force out there, and I know that there is something that I can look forward to in the end, and I know that I can depend on this deity, and I can form relationship with them and feel, like that's really what it is for a lot of people, and that would still apply.
yeah. I'm also wondering, like, from a Christian perspective, like we're both aware of what Joel ends up doing in the
Yes.
finale. Kind of hard to side with Joel if you're a Christian. Now that I'm thinking about it, like that decision is like irreparable damage in my mind. Because if you're a Christian, you would think that Ellie's immunity is God sent, is divine.
Oh, I guess
Because there's
I
no
didn't
one else
think about it
except for
like that,
her.
honestly.
And yeah, if a person were to take that away, I don't know. It'd be hard for me to have any empathy for Joel. I think as the show has gone on, and we'll probably spoiler warning for anything else from this point onward. So just let you all know that whoever's listening. As the show's gone on, I'm I'm always empathizing with Joel, but I am very much leaning more in the other direction of like he was dead ass wrong in what he ends up doing. 100%.
I mean, I guess it's wrong in like logically, it's wrong. Like it's not the like
No,
it's
morally it's still
no.
wrong.
I'm not. Hold on. Let me finish my thought.
No, I'm just go ahead.
Like it's not the logical decision in terms of like the greater good, right? I get that, but it's a very understandable decision. Like I understand it a
It
lot.
okay. It's not. It's just not logical. You have to include more than just that word, though.
I mean, it depends on how you look at morals and how you think about it. If you think about, because some people, it's like the age old ethical question of like, is sacrificing one for the good of many moral? Some people would say it's not. Some people would say it is.
I I think those are. I think the situations are different. That I think the situations that we often find ourselves in the world that we're in is like, would using a missile to bomb this area, knowing that it'll have casualties, wipe out a terrorist group that we know would destroy millions of lives. That isn't what's happening here, though. Ellie willingly decided to give herself up.
Well, that's what I didn't know. I thought she didn't know that she could die.
Well, I don't think she knew that she could die
She
in the
doesn't
first game, but she is 100% okay with it. That becomes very
in the
clear.
second game. Yes, to
Yes.
me, I think that's the thing that you could. To me, the fact that he didn't isn't necessarily the thing that makes it clearly immoral. The more immoral thing is that he didn't ask her. Like he did that, he didn't give her the agency to choose. Because if she had been like, no, I don't want to die for the greater good, I would have been like, okay, cool. And I would have had no moral issues with Ellie saying that. I would have been like, I'm cool.
I think I interpreted the story as things sort of led on, which is like I think Ellie seemed to come to peace with like this is how I want my story to end. Like her spirit sort of changes after what happens in this episode, where she's just kind of like I'm I'm kind of done. And I mean, you see it. She's not as like chippy and cheerful as she was before because the only thing she's just kind of like, I mean, you saw it in the trailer where she just sort of alludes to it all has to have mean for something. Like it has to mean for something. That line, I interpret that as like, it sounds like she would be okay with, you know,
Oh, I know she would be okay with it. I guess
yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm saying that the fact that he didn't ask is what makes it immoral. The fact that he made the decision for her.
I think
Because I feel like if the outcome had been the same, but Ellie had made the decision, I wouldn't have an issue with that, morally
no,
speaking.
no, no. Yeah, I think that would be different, but now I don't know because we're talking about the this is a cure for mankind though.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I might be like, damn, that's a little selfish, Ellie, but I don't
A
like,
little, a little.
okay, but it's a huge, but that's a big thing to ask of a person. Die? That's a big thing to ask.
Yeah, but
Like, die,
it's not, but it's
not,
not just die. It's a sacrifice for the survival. Like you know,
yeah, no, but it's still like a big thing to ask of a person,
I feel like this
especially like a
show.
young person that like hasn't lived their life.
That's true. That's true. I feel like this show though, it feels like there is like a clear commentary on like
Also,
individualism versus like communalism.
yeah.
Like that seems like an ongoing thing that I've noticed all throughout the entire show of like one, it's not just that like you can't do it on your own. It's not a matter of, or I should say this. One commentary is you shouldn't live life on your own. And I think the other part is you kind of can't live life on your own. Like you need other people, not for the sake of like you need it as in like I need someone to love, but rather like it is innately a part of us as people, as human beings, as biological creatures that are created to have community, to have companionship.
Which kind of makes Joel's decision more understandable.
No, but Joel is thinking about an individual. Joel's not thinking about everyone.
No, but to him, Ellie is his everyone.
That's true,
I
but
mean,
like
you have to also think of it like a parent, like that's his like
yeah.
his
Yeah,
child,
no,
you know?
I know. I know.
Also, the other thing maybe they answer this in the game, but like, is it like a guarantee that it's gonna work?
Well, see now, this is where I think it's going to get
Because I think
interesting.
that's another thing too. Is it's like
It felt a lot more ambiguous in the games. It doesn't seem like it'll feel that ambiguous in the
why
show.
they haven't given us any information really. All we know is that she's immune.
No. There's been a lot more intentionality about her immunity and the the conversation of communalism has been a lot louder in the show, which
But
from
that I don't know that necessarily means
hold
that they're
on,
gonna give us a guarantee.
from a narrative perspective, it is a stronger story if it would have created a cure versus I don't know if it would have because it's in my mind it gives Joel an escape route. in terms of the consequences of his actions. That's how I interpret it.
I don't know. I don't see it as weakening it. I think it just complicates the decision. It complicates the morals of it a bit more
How?
because now you don't know. So there's not a clear right. There's not a clear right choice. In a situation where you know for sure that it's going to cure, then like the clear right choice would be to let her do it. But in a situation where you don't know, then there's not a clear right or wrong. It's like, what am I putting my stock in? What do I want to believe in more?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to risk this thing for the chance? I don't know. I could see it working either way. But the main thing really is that Ellie should have got to choose. That's really the main. Like, I feel like the Fireflies also should have told her, like, you're about to die if you do this. And
Yeah, I don't know why
you need to make a
Marlene.
decision.
I guess from her perspective, she's like, if oh my God, Thor.
She doesn't want to risk her saying no, which is also
Yeah,
sort of immoral when you think about it.
I don't. There's got to be another word we can use here for these people in play. I don't know if immoral.
Unethical.
No, I'm. There's got to be a more nuanced word because as I'm hearing you speak, Joel is faced with a decision. Do I give up my daughter who has brought meaning back into my life on an if? And he's not willing to make that decision. And so he does throw away the possibility of the world coming back together. That immoral or unethical feels too strong. And I think it's the same with Marlene and the Fireflies. Do we risk telling Ellie that this procedure will end her life, knowing that if she were to say no, the 30 years of horrible things that they had to do for the sake of trying to bring it back, like the weight behind that, again, I don't know if to say it's like immoral. The words feel too strong for like Joel and Marlene. I don't know if I'm making sense.
It's making sense. No, it makes sense. I just don't have another word.
Yeah, I don't know if it
I mean, to me, I
exists.
think unethical would be the other word. I feel like that is a more nuanced word because ethics are nuanced.
Yeah.
But I think the other question I have is like, you guys have been living this world in this world for 20 years.
Mm.
Let's say you guys were to get a cure. Like, then what? Like, seriously, like what?
What happens?
Like, what do you? Because honestly, in the show, at this point in time, the infected are not like the biggest threat. Like, they kind of go a long time without encountering them, frankly.
Especially in the winter, infected kind of freeze to death because they don't have any wherewithal of like we need to go inside in the warm.
And I don't feel like they're in a period of time anymore where like new infected are like constantly being created like they probably were at the beginning when everybody was just,
Definitely not in droves
no,
like it was
exactly.
yeah.
Like it's slowed down quite a bit. So like, I mean, like seriously, like what? Like
Mm-hmm.
how much would it change? Because you guys have already rebuilt, I think, as much as you really can. Like you have all of these different communities that are
Yeah, look at Jackson.
they're doing what they can do. The biggest issues that you have right now are not going to be cleared up with a cure. The biggest issues that you have are like resources.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. It's resources. That's the problem, that you guys don't have like functioning systems to create all of the things that people had prior to the outbreak.
But the anomaly that destroyed the world economy was the virus. And if you eliminate that variable, you can reopen that door again.
I don't see what's stopping them from reopening it now.
Because I don't think you can trust. I'm trying to gather my thoughts here. I think what destroyed their community was the exclusivity of the dangers of their world, with meaning the infected. And so you are a lot more closed off because we can't afford anyone to get bit. We can't afford infected to come inside. That exclusivity creates it creates isolation and exclusion amongst people altogether. And so if you don't luck out with having a doctor in your group, with having an engineer in your group, with having a construction worker in your group, having a place where you can grow a garden, you are out of luck. And to force humans to be in that sort of desperation is what we see happen with raiders. But if you remove the thing that is forcing people to live in fear, which is we can't allow people to get infected, my thought process is if you take that out of the equation, you can start to open the door of thinking about other ways to stay safe.
I think I disagree. I think because I don't necessarily think it was. I think probably the biggest thing that would bring all these systems crumbling is the loss of manpower all at one time. You lost all of the people who would normally be doing these things to keep things functioning.
Yeah.
And if that's down for a long enough time, it just becomes nearly impossible to rebuild it again. Then, of course, you add on the layer of the infected. And that is obviously it's definitely a part of what is making them untrustworthy, but they do have tools to tell you if somebody is infected upon seeing them. They do have that ability now. They have technology that will tell you whether or not somebody has been exposed to this virus upon encountering them. The real thing that people are afraid of is whether or not people are a threat to them. It's not necessarily about whether or not they're infected that people are scared of. I don't see that as the biggest fear. People are suspicious of any strangers because everybody is in a fend for themselves mindset and they know that. And so you don't know if any person that you encounter is a threat to you and the resources that you need. And I don't think a cure necessarily
I'm not I'm
fixes
not
that.
I'm not saying it's the biggest fear. I'm saying it is the catalyst that consistently drives society in the direction that we're seeing them
No,
in.
it was the catalyst, but I don't think it's consistently the driver now, which is why I don't know if a
Oh, no, no,
cure
no. Hold on.
necessarily fixes it.
But we've seen what happens. You are not able to rebuild society on larger scales because look in those big cities. You've got the cordyceps that are roaming around. And so you're still limited on the infrastructure that you can build, which is why I think it's becoming so closed off in where people can live, which is what's leading to people to becoming desperate enough to become a raider. Because it's not just a lack of resources, I think it's also a lack of location on where they can live. Because where people are moving to are the more rural areas where it's less likely that infected will be because most of them are in the big cities.
Okay, but